do this. All right, you're good. I'm good. I have to go find some food. Oh, do you want to take? Oh, you can switch from the computer, right?
Yeah. It's working. It's working right now. So.
All right. Justin, hi there.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Hi. And how you doing? This is exciting. Hello, JC.
I see a hello in the chat room, so that means we should get started.
Hearing the sound. Hearing the sound of my own voice. What does that sound like? Oh my gosh.
It sounds like magic.
I'm hearing the sound of my own voice.
Have you recorded any songs?
I have sung many a song, and I have been recorded singing many a song. But no, I've never gone into the studio to actually lay down a track.
Okay.
Although I would. I'm the guy who is inclined to do so.
Can you sing like Billy Boyd?
Sure can.
I don't believe you. Billy Boyd's a falsetto.
Well, I don't sing as a tenor. He can sing tenor, but I'm a baritone, as you
Okay.
can tell by listening to this voice.
Hello,
Yeah,
everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Hello, Billy. Please forgive me if I actually said you're a tenor, because I thought you were a tenor, isn't he? But anyways, welcome to the OneRing.net.
He's pretty high up.
Yeah. He's a tenor, isn't he? No? Should have been.
There's so many good singers in the movie.
I'm
Brett
telling
McKenzie. No, is he in it?
Viggo Mortensen.
He can sing.
Brett McKenzie is in it, but he does not sing.
It's not fair that Viggo is so talented and he can sing and he looks like that.
You are so funny. Everything is fair in love and war, right? Hello, welcome. It is time for you guys to come on board. This is the live show.
We're live at Scum and Villainy Hollywood, the coolest geek bar. We've been here for several months now, and we've made the whole bar look hobbity with the green doors and everything like that.
There's mischief managed here on a weekly or daily, schedule. It is so great to have you guys join us. If you're here in Los Angeles, you can be live in the audience. They open early because we do this great show, and you can come in and have delicious, burgers and hot wings and yummy bar food.
We will be here in a couple weeks' time because Bilbo's birthday is Saturday, September 22nd, right? And we're going to be, during the day, we're going to be at Griffith Park, bring your family, but at night, we'll bring the party here and keep celebrating like hobbits do all night long, right?
Quite a party, a double wave of extra party, of special magnificence. It really is the biggest and best thing we do all year long, is the public picnic.
The Baggins Birthday Bash.
Yeah, look it up on Facebook. It is a public event. Point your web browser or anywhere in Facebook and search for Baggins Birthday Bash. And all you folks in California, welcome to come aboard. And you're also welcome to join us here at Scum and Villainy at the corner of Cahuenga and Hollywood Boulevard.
Every week,
Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Mr. Justin.
Please come
how
in. The bartenders are ready to serve you.
They are.
And the yummy black cherry soda.
It's delicious.
It's so good.
Look at that. You got that black cherry soda?
And
I love that
right
stuff.
after Baggins Birthday Bash, we're going to be at New York Comic Con.
Oh my gosh,
in
that's
October.
True. That's coming right up.
And I think we're doing a Ringers Take Manhattan, and we have these amazing new T-shirts for New York Comic Con that we just debuted at Dragon Con, and they were so popular.
Oh, good.
So popular. You have to go to our Facebook feed and see the pictures of the shirts from Dragon Con. They're so much fun.
Yes, I would love to do a duet with Billy. We're live, so you guys are coming, chatting with us live. There's many ways to do that.
This party sounds like so much fun. It is so much fun.
Yes, you better believe it. And we can see you guys in the chat. Thank you for being part of it. What is this number? It's starting way over here, and it's going to float under my hand. There it is. What is that?
530
530
64
FRODO.
643-7636 is the
There
phone
it
number.
goes.
You can text it, and it
Right
goes
there.
right to my phone and Cliff's phone. In fact, you can text it 24 hours a day, and
fun.
Cliff will usually respond. We also have the Skype line open,
Sometimes.
so hit us up on Skype if you're from far away. I will answer the call right now, and we want to talk to you, and we want to see you on the Skype. This is an open forum episode where we have no special guests except you, the fans. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Someone on the social medias last week made a comment that I really took to heart. She said that the OneRing.net was the first website, or one of the first websites, that took fans seriously and made fandom a newsworthy item.
Oh, she was talking during a relative conversation to one of the earliest Harry Potter fan websites.
Right, the Leaky Cauldron.
Many early Harry Potter fan sites were shut down by Warner Brothers and their pernicious legal department who came after those fan websites. You know what is interesting? Is that we managed to survive any cease and desist letters. You know,
we just ignore them and throw them in the trash.
We were like, New Line had this very nervous relationship with us. All those years ago, imagine when the production of The Lord of the Rings was happening, nobody had seen square one or frame one of any footage, and we were poking around, and they were like, uh-oh, what is she doing, crawling over fences? That was Tahanu, Erica Chalice.
That's right.
One of the founders of the OneRing.net, way back in the year 2000, and she was crossing through, some sheep's pastures and hopping some fences to take a look around and see what's going on. And at some point, there was a letter that showed up on her door saying, "You can't be doing that."
Yeah.
Remember that? That was
do.
the earliest bit of controversy that we ever had.
Manu
That was very
Pena
fun.
is in the chat room, says, hey, follower of you guys since 2001. Dude, thank you so much.
My gosh, thank you.
It's
awesome.
It's wonderful to constantly see tweets and Facebook comments.
Thanks, Manu.
To us saying, I can't believe you guys still exist and are still relevant. I've followed you guys way back when, refreshing your page 10 times a day, 15 years ago. And
that was so good.
We don't keep it alive. You guys keep it alive.
This is very true.
The fandom is what keeps the community together, because the community is the fandom. And there are other fandoms right now that some consider toxic, and some that are carefully managed by their brand owners. Harry Potter, one of them.
Yes.
Taking a very
that was really
strict
nice.
line.
That young lady from Leaky Cauldron.
Yes.
That major center point of online Harry Potter fandom. That she should reflect so positively on us, as the One Ring being something that encouraged her to keep going with the Leaky Cauldron, to make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we the OneRing.net, wanted nothing more than to find out what that strange zombie movie director was doing with our precious book.
Who had done very violent R-rated films.
We had no idea that the guy who did The Frighteners and had done Dead Alive and Meet the Feebles, we had no idea that Mr. Peter Jackson and his team were going to have the foresight and the talent to bring the most amazing adaptations of The Lord of the Rings that we had seen. Wow, so amazing, these live-action films. But we didn't know. We were nervous.
And
we were
Meet
nervous.
the Feebles has maintained its perch atop the best R-rated puppet movies of all time. Unfortunately, the latest puppet movie did not do so well at the box office, so Peter Jackson maintains his title with Meet the Feebles as the best violent puppet movie ever released.
You mean Happy Time Murders didn't make a lot of money? That's funny.
Kaylin Griffin says, I have been a member of the OneRing.net for many, many years. No idea how long, though. Aruana says, I was a toddler in 2001. Aruvandi says, I was in 4th grade in 2001. We always took that to heart. Now, Cliff, many of the contributors to the One Ring were very, very well-versed old fans, silverbacks, as I like to say.
You could say that. Some of the fans getting a little long in the tooth.
That took many issues to the creative license that Peter Jackson took, but they still were part of the community and contributed. But we always acknowledged behind the scenes that the people that come to the OneRing.net are in 4th grade or in 10th grade or in college or have been fans for 60 years. Like, we tried to keep everything, and we still do. We try to keep everything relatively G or PG rated, so every person of the family can consume.
We have managed to keep our entire website and most everything in theonering.net politics-free, cruelty-free, and misogyny-free. It's amazing. Over all these years,
it takes work. You can't just
it's true. We've had
you can't just live and let live. Like it takes a conscious effort
Yes.
to maintain the public square.
Yeah.
And
in essence,
and you
but
guys
wait,
have been a part of that.
But there's something about the way that Tolkien and his characters and his world lives and breathes in our lives, in our imagination. There's something far more gentle and gregarious and friendly and hospitable about hobbits and elves and the way that they behave. As fans, none of us find the appeal of acting like orcs and being so brutish and awful. I mean, it is kind of funny, maybe because of the gentle nature of his storytelling, or something in the spirit of his hopefulness and that spirit of that generous quality of heart, that all these characters, most of the best characters in Tolkien, reflect these qualities that we kind of do ourselves. Ringer fans are generally better behaved group of people. And I don't know if there's some ephemeral reason why that we haven't figured out yet, but it might have something to do with the professor himself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because he gives many reasons. There's so many races and cultures in his stories that all have full character arcs that you can. He gives a good example of how to live, and almost everyone worldwide in any language can identify with Tolkien. But it all starts with you guys.
Thank you.
You guys have been wonderful.
Our Bray 31. Yeah, me. I'm a Trekkie to the core as well. But isn't that funny? Who's the friendliest of all fandoms? It kind of seems to be like we're the ones who have picnics, public picnics, so we can have an excuse to eat. I don't know any other fandom so hobbity in their mindset.
And that's why
we want to get together and just eat and have friends and have a good time and relax and play
so
music.
People in the chat room were asking about updates on the Amazon series, and that's why it's
that's
encouraging. That's what we're talking about, is why it's encouraging that there's no updates. It means that Amazon is taking their time finding the right authors and writers and showrunners to that maintain that level of sophistication and empathy and everything that comes along with Tolkien fans, as you just described, is required of the creative forces behind the Amazon series. So the updates we have so far is there's no director, there's no showrunner. They've hired 2 writers. Those writers are new to Hollywood. They're late 30s. They're from Utah. And they've written some spec scripts, but nothing's been produced. So they're very green when it comes to actual production scripts.
Indeed.
But they're big Tolkien fans. And so Amazon's goal is to have a writer's room of 12 people. These are the first 2 of hopefully 12 people.
Wow.
To write the show.
Do you think?
So...
do you think no news is good news?
No news is good news.
GNews is good GNews.
Everything
with Gary GNew.
That's just what we can talk about.
Any of you kids remember the Great Space Coaster, that kids show from the 80s? You might remember it, maybe not.
Dave Gentry.
I'm dating
myself. What's up, guys?
What's up, Mr. Gentry?
We
How are you?
hobbits love to eat. Yes, we do. That's why we're doing the Baggins birthday bash.
Yeah, we do.
Arowana says, now I'm almost 20 years old, and I'm still a huge Tolkien fan. Plot twist, Arowana. You will be equivalent excited as a Tolkien fan in 70 years. You will be 90 years old. You will be sitting in your chair, and you will ask to read the book again.
Yeah.
Because what we're finding, and what you found as producer on Ringer's Lord of the Fans, the documentary, is that people read The Lord of the Rings at different phases of their life, and they start identifying with different characters in the books. So they get something new that they never recognized earlier on. Yeah. So Lord of the Rings really connects with people at all different phases of their life.
This is true.
For different reasons.
That's what the professor called applicability. Applicability is this quality in his work that J.R.R. Tolkien thought was much, much better than using ham-fisted metaphor that was deliberate. He thought that letting readers read into it at their own time, in their own cultural space, with their own personal viewpoints, to find what was applicable to them at the time when they read it, was a much better approach. As an author, he felt that it gave the reader a greater responsibility for what they were actually taking in value.
It treats the reader with respect and assumes that the reader is smart.
Yep.
Doesn't dumb it down.
Absolutely.
You know, interesting. Someone in the chat room just brought up that they didn't discover Tolkien until they were in college. And the interesting thing is, she says she's never received any heat or flack for coming late to the party.
Yes.
She's been welcome into the community, both in person, online, in chat rooms. It doesn't matter when you discover it.
Why would any other fandom say you're a less legitimate fan because you've just discovered it recently?
Well, I tell you, I got that in Star Wars. I got that in Star Wars because when the prequels were coming out and people say, hey, when did you discover Star Wars? And I said, not till the special editions, 97. And people are like, oh, you're not a real fan. You never saw Star Wars in theaters. I'm like, well, no, because I was 1 year old. Actually, I was negative years old because I wasn't conceived in 1977.
You were just an ovum floating around.
But I was instantly, immediately treated as a second-class fan because I wasn't there.
That happened? Why? Why delegitimize anybody's fandom?
But that's what Star Wars has always been. And if people want to talk about the gatekeeping and the Rose Tico situation and everything that's going on in Star Wars, it's not new to them. They've always been a level of gatekeeping in Star Wars. Tolkien fans have never been like that. That's true. Like, I'm still embraced even though I haven't read The Hobbit.
The worst conversation that we ever had when the first Lord of the Rings trilogy of films came out, and New Line Cinema and Peter Jackson were, raking in Oscars like leaves off the lawn, year after year after year. When those movies were coming out, the only slight friction in the fandom that could be called an internal friction was that there was the realization that we had a whole massive group of fans who had not read Tolkien at all, and they had only one relationship, and that was with the films. And the older fans who had been hardcore, counterculture fans from the 60s and had embraced all those Led Zeppelin albums from the 60s and 70s, and that, getting long in the tooth wave of original guard fandom, the only friction that came from them was cautionary statements that we had online saying, look, kids, that's not really how it happened in the book. Faramir would never, ever have kidnapped Sam and Frodo against their will and dragged them all the way over to the river, to Osgiliath.
Do
you know what I mean?
Do you remember when we were in the...
We just had to make it clear to people that if you want to really understand these characters, then read the book and you'll know how Faramir really behaves. Not the version that you see in the film.
I really
That was the only bit of friction we had, was trying to teach the younglings what the difference was between book versus film.
The interesting thing to that comment is I feel like I had to teach the oldlings how to appreciate the movies because I thought Faramir was a perfect character in the movies. I thought he was. I understood.
That's the only major flaw in the adaptation. Is that Faramir would not have behaved that way. No.
I understand where Faramir's coming from in the movies, and I really like movie Faramir, and I've had to explain to a lot of oldlings why Faramir
I'm the old one
is
now.
Fine.
Okay.
Do you remember when we were in a screening of The Two Towers, and there was an old fan. He's been a fan for ages. A self-described Tolkien fundamentalist, and he said,
"Do I know this person? Do we know this as a mutual friend of ours?"
And when that scene came up, one of my favorite scenes in the whole trilogy, when they're in Osgiliath, and Sam says, by all rights, we shouldn't even be here.
That's right.
He stood up in the theater and said, you're damn right you shouldn't be there. The hobbits were nowhere near Osgiliath in the book. And he walked out. He walked out of the movie.
No.
He was such a hardcore book fan that that was the last straw, So Look, but we don't think
I don't know that guy.
We don't think any less of
wasn't
him,
me.
and we don't think any less of anybody for where they came into Tolkien and what parts they like. Like, it's okay to disagree and not like The Hobbit or love The Hobbit, you know?
It's okay to appreciate the changes to the character in hindsight, because Faramir, as Philippa and Fran were very careful to
Thank
explain.
you, Grady.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just going to say that having Faramir go almost to a tipping point of making a serious mistake and then repenting from it and coming back and saying, no, I better not do this. I'm going to disobey my father. You two, go on your way. Yeah. And then the way that Faramir and his men behave towards Gollum is critical, because the cruelty and the abuse that Smeagol takes at the hands of Faramir's men, he really did have to be punched up quite a bit. Okay. Like Gollum was punched up, because that motivates so much that changes in Gollum through the third film. So, indeed, I get it.
So people in the chat room are mentioning Elladan and Elrohir. Do you think those characters should have a major role in the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon?
Very much so. I would have... Well, look, they created Haldir, you know? And we all love elf characters. We love having Haldir there. I mean, he's, you know, we just love it. The thing is, why would they invent characters when they could have just used Elladan and Elrohir?
Are those the twin sons of Elrond?
Yeah, the twin sons, the two boys that Elrond had, identical twins.
Like the twin sons of Star Wars, of Tatooine.
Not the twin sons floating in the,
Tatooine.
Going across the
We're live at
heliotrope.
Scum and Villainy.
We're talking about the two boys that were born before Arwen. I think Arwen was the third child.
Okay.
I think. But the first two children of Lord Elrond of Rivendell would be the coolest characters that we've never seen in any adaptation of any Middle-earth story ever.
I am totally
I would love to see
serious
them.
here. Listen to me, Amazon, and especially listen to me, the fans. I really want the actors from The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, Dylan Sprouse and Cole Sprouse, to play Elrond's sons. They are actual twins. They have a dynamic amongst them that will carry over into those characters.
Yep.
And this can't be like Armie Hammer in The Social Network,
Where he plays
he plays both twins.
the Winklevoss twins.
This needs to be an actual pair of twins.
Okay.
And Tolkien's work, Tolkien's Middle-earth, Tolkien's Legendarium requires people that know acting, great acting. Cole Sprouse, Dylan Sprouse are definitely have the capability, have the skill. They're the right age. They look the part, and they love Tolkien. They love Tolkien. We've had Dylan Sprouse on the show a few times, and he's proved his quality. Absolutely. So, if you guys are thinking about Elrond's twin sons, the list is extremely short for capable actors, twin actors. Just saying.
Indeed. Well said. But also, one of our chatters who's live with us on the show has just said, I hate to disagree, but there are some characters in the book that should just remain characters in the book. And yes, I'll give you that. There is some wisdom to be had there. There's quite some granular wisdom when you look at that. However, on the other side of this, with all things being equal, I'm talking about the same thing he's talking about, which is unexplored potential. And I think in my heart that knowing about the adventures and the interesting things we learn about the two boys from the appendix in the back of The Return of the King, Elladan and Elrohir are really, really ripe with potential. That potential is fascinating to me because it would flesh out the story of what happened to their mother and the tragedy that happened to her, the heartbreak, and how and why she left Middle-earth, and why we never see her. That's right, Elrond's wife, Celebrian. And so I'm interested in all this. I'm interested in seeing those vivid depictions in the appendix, especially in The Tale of Years, where Tolkien goes down through thousands and thousands of years. And I want to see some of those episodes of really big, important events fleshed out, not just with my favorite characters, but if I'm going to get some new characters, I would like for them to have real DNA in the world of Middle-earth in a real sense. If you're going to give me brand new characters, I love you, Craig Parker, but don't give me a Haldir character. Rather, give me some of the juice and the meat and potatoes that's in the story already with Eladan and Elrohir. That's all I'm saying.
But
there's potential.
Counterpoint to that, we've seen. I don't know if I agree with that because Star Wars does that. In fact, if Rey is related to Luke Skywalker, the fans will riot. There is a conscious thing that most Star Wars fans have is like, look, not everybody that rules the galaxy has to be a Skywalker. Stop connecting everything to Skywalkers. Why does one family have so much influence on the galaxy of Star Wars? Like, give us other characters. Like, it's okay to bring in more characters, but the fact that they seem to be shoehorning Skywalker after Skywalker after Skywalker after everybody's a Skywalker. It's okay to like have the same stories. Not everybody needs to be Skywalker.
With new characters.
So
yeah, I get it.
I appreciate that Haldir was a new character.
Well, actually, Haldir, it is correct that we've been pointed out Haldir is from the books, though, but that Haldir in the books isn't the same one that's in the movies. The Haldir who shows up at Helm's Deep is just a replacement for the Grey Company, which would be a lot of Aragorn's buddies of the Dunedain, rangers from the north, who never showed up in the film. So, yeah, I'm just... Yeah.
Sarah Tharon says, I think the one that plays Cody in Riverdale now, he is superb, and his character is serious. He is. That's Cole Sprouse. I'm also excited. I like Riverdale, and I would love to see a spin-off called Rivendell. Maybe there's a teenage... Maybe there's a teenage growing up thing with young Arwen and the young twins in Rivendell, and it's plotted like Riverdale. Hey, we got another person in the chat room. Dave Gentry says he is really close to Asheville, North Carolina, and I just have to say, good luck with the hurricane. We're thinking about you. I love Asheville. I've been there many times.
Wow.
I've stayed in some of those old plantation homes, and I've been there for Moog Fest, and Asheville is just a wonderful town. In fact, all of North Carolina is just a wonderful, wonderful town.
That's where the
and the hurricane is just gonna sit in North Carolina for about 2 days.
However, for those who are geographically challenged, I believe Asheville is in the westernmost, furthest inland place from the coast.
Yeah.
And the coastal areas, especially in South Carolina, are under mandatory evacuation by the government authorities in the state, moving 1/5 of the entire population of the state of South Carolina inland, off the coasts. We pray for their safety. These people have to get their animals and their children and their lives packed up in a brief box and run on a jam-packed highway with too many people to get inland to safety. So my heart and my thoughts are very much with them.
Was there ever a hurricane?
I agree with you. Asheville is beautiful.
Was there ever a hurricane-type thing in Middle-earth?
Great storms and great cataclysms were, garden variety in the Silmarillion, but not in the Lord of the Rings.
But he describes earthquakes and he describes volcanoes. Does he describe a hurricane?
No.
A spinning storm?
No.
Because
I mean, a cyclonic tropical storm type thing. Not so much.
Tolkien never went west of England.
But
he never came to the Americas, and Americas are where a lot of the hurricanes happen. The Caribbean.
That's true. He was inexperienced with those kinds of storms in his lifetime.
Inexperienced with hurricanes, and so I think that if he wanted to make a story about England, for England,
it wouldn't be hit by hurricanes.
It wouldn't be hit by hurricanes.
I think the worst cataclysmic storm is mentioned when Numenor, the great continent of Atlantis, Numenor, is destroyed. And that includes references to storm and wave and the great tumult that upended the entire island continent and sunk it under the waves.
Huh.
But that wasn't hurricane description. That was just...
Dave says he lives at the top of the Misty Mountains, and I've seen those Misty Mountains. I think it's the southeast edge of the Smoky Mountains, of the Great Smoky Mountains. And I tell you, the morning mist across the Smoky Mountains is the Misty Mountains. And if they don't shoot this TV series in New Zealand, I absolutely think that they could shoot everything that has to do with Gollum and the Misty Mountains out in Asheville, out in the Carolinas. You know, they shoot a lot of The Walking Dead in Georgia, but they can definitely shoot Misty Mountains and many locales of Middle Earth in that area of the country.
I don't agree, because the Misty Mountains are very alpine, very, very alpine mountains that are much, much higher in elevation, some of them are permanently snow-tipped. I mean, the Misty Mountains, I believe, are, in my mind, fairly represented by the Southern Alps of the South Island of New Zealand, because those Southern Alps, as you know, the word Alp, they are alpine, and they're really, hey guys, come on in. They are incredibly snow-capped and glacial and alpine. And the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains are nowhere near that elevation. They don't keep that frost. Hello there.
Well,
we have special guests here at Scum and Villainy.
We have an audience in the
We have
house.
an audience. We have a live audience. The bar is open, and welcome aboard, everybody. We're just greeting our live audience.
And you can join us, too. If you're watching, please come to Hollywood, sit at the counter, and be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, of course. And you can come on and talk with us live about all this mischief. Now, look,
why would they shoot Lord of the Rings in Alaska? What in Alaska reminds you of Lord of the Rings?
that is a far more Arctic and alpine region with a permanent snow line, a snow line that stays year-round. You know, that seems to be. You know what? Besides the elevation of like 3 times the height of the Smoky Mountains.
I believe it's John Howe that says the southern tip of Argentina. What is the
Patagonia?
Patagonia, Patagonian cliffs in southern Argentina.
Yes.
Are the one place in the world that he has most aligned to Middle Earth.
I would say there's a lot of the stark tundra and wilderness of Patagonia, which could be compatible with some of the wild locations in Middle Earth. If you're talking about where they're going to shoot locations for the show, I think that they're going to try to make some kind of a special deal with the tax incentives with the government of New Zealand and get it all squared away there, because why not? If they're going to be pulling props out of the dust bin and dusting off things that are in storage that Peter Jackson had been shooting, then why aren't they going to just go down there and shoot in New Zealand everywhere? And anyway, I mean...
Well, that's all under negotiation. Now, to the main topic of today,
under negotiation,
J. Anthony
what
mentions, what could they have changed the Two Towers to if they decided to change the name? Now, let's give a little bit of context here, okay? Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring came out in December 2001. That is 90 days after 9/11 happened. And everyone was nervous that a giant war movie right after 9/11 might fail at the box office.
It was about 30 or 40 days after.
Right?
Maybe it was
September 11,
Oh,
October,
September. No, wait.
November, December. That's
Okay.
That's 90 days.
Clear enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in December of 2001, Peter Jackson tells us that he wants to put a trailer for the Two Towers at the end of the last reel. You remember that? Like they were going to send a new final reel of Fellowship to all the theaters worldwide, which would include a trailer for the fans to go see Fellowship again.
To encourage more theatrical viewings of Fellowship and get a sneak peek at what would be next year's big release. You guys, you kids out there, I love it that the younger fans are with us, but you don't know the awful suspense and anxiety we lived through waiting a year for the next film to come out.
Marvel did not invent the post-credit scene. It was Peter Jackson in Lord of the Rings.
In that case, yes. But more context. At the time after the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, Sony went to great lengths to remove the World Trade Center from the Spider-Man marketing campaign. And some of the most valuable and rare posters from Sam Raimi doing that very first Spider-Man of the series, he did. If any collector out there has their hands on one of those original Spider-Man posters that show him, on the poster with the visible World Trade Center towers behind him in the reflection, and that is one of the unaltered originals. And then there was some...
I have that poster.
And there was I know you do. And there was a teaser trailer with webbing in between the World Trade Center towers, and they took that trailer offline as well. We remember this. So more context. Why
My
then,
poster is even signed by Stan Lee.
Why then would New Line Cinema be shaking in their boots at the prospect of marketing the second film?
The Twin Towers had just fallen.
And The Two Towers was the name of the film.
And
so they didn't know what to do.
There was a huge question mark.
There was a big question mark.
Audiences
Yes.
were smart enough to separate tragedy from fantasy.
Yeah.
These were real conversations. It was heavy. I don't know if, Keith, do you remember any of those conversations? Yeah.
Yes. Now, guys, take a moment. Take a moment, please. Have a seat. Have a seat. Mr. Keith Stern, grab that microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, this person who's joined us, this voice on the side, is a quite notable personality in Lord of the Rings and X-Men fandom. He is the webmaster for McKellen.com, and our dear friend Keith Stern, who's been working with Sir Ian and websites also for other people in the Lord of the Rings universe, including AndyCircus.com, SERKIS.com. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Stern.
Yes, hello.
So good to see you again, brother. And happy birthday late.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Happy birthday.
So
you haven't
we're
aged
talking about
today.
I know, it's been like just a few minutes have gone by since 2001, right?
Oh my gosh. No, but it's true that there was a marketing dilemma for the studio, and they didn't know what to do.
Well, we were all very depressed about the whole situation, you know?
Yes.
It was very frightening, and people didn't know whether they should stay home or go out. And the inclination was really for people to stay home and huddle together. And so, and it was like our kind of fantasy entertainment was suddenly possibly irrelevant compared to what was going on in the real world.
Wow. Now, when you think about that, wow, that's a huge concept.
So, you know, our main, and of course, Ian McKellen at that time was very excited because he was in rehearsals for a play in New York on Broadway with Helen Mirren.
Oh, that's right.
They were just about to open.
When the attacks happened.
I think they were planning to open on September 18th
or
thereabouts. So they were in
their
final rehearsals. And of course, you know, they were right in the middle of it all, and they were as shocked and upset as everybody, but they also had a job to do, and which was to, you know, entertain people, to get people out of their houses and out of their depression and into the seats of the theater to, you know, well, of course, Dance of Death, not exactly the most, you know,
sure,
thrilling, exciting play.
But I'm a very, very firm believer in that the arts and the expression of who we are as human beings through the arts is healing and therapeutic at all times.
Well, that's what we have to do. I
Yes.
mean, you know, that's our job.
Yes.
And so that's certainly the way. You know, I mean, they certainly thought about closing the play and not doing the play.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they thought about postponing the opening of The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, too. But instead, we started trying to think of ways that maybe the films were more relevant to what people were feeling at that time. And so, and certainly I suggested to New Line, remember the lines of Gandalf in the caves with Frodo?
Yes, indeed.
And I recommended that we put a poster out on that subject. And one of the posters that they did print, and maybe they made only one copy for me.
They did make that poster.
Yeah.
This is it's not a full one-sheet marketing image. It's a different poster featuring the conversation between Frodo and Gandalf in Moria, where Frodo laments the whole thing and says, "Sometimes I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened," speaking metaphorically about the attack on our country. And Gandalf's wisdom, he says, "So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to us." Right?
Exactly. And that just seemed to entirely encapsulate the moment. Mm-hmm. And as it turned out, people did go see the movie, so maybe we were right.
That's awesome. Thank you, Keith.
That is so awesome. Keith, that is so awesome.
So,
it's good to see you, man.
So we heard, and I looked up in the archives of thewandering.net, we heard in December, the late December, that Peter Jackson wanted to add the Two Towers trailer to Fellowship.
Yes.
Guess when that trailer finally was released?
I would say Fellowship stayed in theaters in its primary theatrical run almost all year long. So that would have been in maybe late July.
March. Late March.
March?
March 29th, we finally got the Two Towers trailer at the end of the movie. And
Okay.
so Peter told us in December, January, February, March.
Yes.
Why did it take 3 months? He told us the trailer was done. Why did it take 3 months to get that trailer added to Lord of the Rings?
I don't know. Why?
Because from what we understand, there were serious discussions about whether to rename the second movie.
Oh, okay.
So-
okay. So the
The
studio
trailer was done. Peter told us it was done. It was ready to go in December. They held it because allegedly there had high-level conversations. New Line Cinema, Warner Brothers, worldwide marketing. Like, is the word "The Two Towers" toxic? Will it negatively affect? Will it be part of the 24-hour news cycle? You know, that Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema are taking advantage of the of the falling of the Twin Towers, and it just becomes like
would the optics be so bad we can't even release the film? I remember that. Now,
So
there
some
were
of the-
also some clueless people who came online and said, "Shame on you, New Line Cinema, for releasing a movie like that only 1 year after the terrorist attacks, and you're calling it The Two Towers. Boo on you."
Boo.
And those people had no earthly idea
This is
that was
before
just the
Twitter.
title of the book from 1955.
This is before Twitter could activate that controversy to epic
That was before
proportions.
Twitter, but there were still people
So people were asking
hissing about it.
what are the
I remember.
possible other titles that they could use for this movie?
No way.
And the first option, the first obvious thing is Two Towers is not the name of the books. Remember, Two Towers is a collection of 2 books, according to Tolkien, right? There are 2 books in each of the volumes.
You guys, look, if you're going to get into the details, let's get into the semantics.
Let's get it. That's why
Because
we're here.
Professor Tolkien was kind of busted about this. He was not happy with his publisher for doing this to him. You know the story, Keith. Instead of printing one book, one novel, 1,200 pages long, and because of the paper shortage after World War II, Tolkien's publishers, Allen and Unwin, said, no, we're not going to publish a massive thing that's going to sit like a massive Webster's dictionary reference. It's not going to be a 1,200-page book. We're going to break it up. Tolkien said, please, this story is not supposed to be broken up. The publisher said, do you want it published or not? You know, that's life in the big city.
So
John Ronald, do you want it published or not? And he said, okay, let me think of what we're going to title them. And Tolkien stammered and struggled with what would be the appropriate titles of breaking
And
one
how
book
many books?
into 3 volumes.
3 volumes.
3 volumes
6
that are
books.
made up of 2 books in each volume, because he did write book 1, book 2. He wrote books 1 through 6. He never thought they'd be split up into volumes with separate titles.
So what are the names of the volume 2? The names of the books are The Treason of Isengard.
Yeah, he did
That's
think
a pretty
of
good movie.
The
The
Treason
Lord of the
I-
Rings, The Treason of Isengard.
The Treason of Isengard. I
I'd go
think
watch that.
It's a cool title,
Right.
actually.
The other book title is The Ring Goes East.
The Ring Goes East.
That's kind of, I wouldn't watch a movie like,
The Ring Goes South ended up being a chapter title. So he was trying to just lift off of his own chapter titles at that point.
right.
But bless his heart.
So those
And
are the
he-
names of the 2 books. And The
ultimately-
Treason of Isengard is a really good name for the movie
I
because
do like that.
the story of Isengard is finished at the end of the movie. Is that right? Like the you see Saruman in the theatrical version. You don't even see Saruman in the 3rd movie. So the complete story of Isengard, the Treason of Isengard, ends at the end of the Two Towers movie. So that is the perfect
Yeah.
title. And that was what was supposedly debated. Do we keep the Two Towers in a post 9/11 world?
Or change it.
Or do we change it to Lord of the Rings, The Treason of Isengard?
that
Because
happened-
they both make sense.
It would have been like a little bit of having, fealty to the fans, a little bit of fan service, to call it an alternate title that the professor was thinking of, but there still would have been a significant backlash of you releasing The Lord of the Rings under any different title.
But
than-
would there be a
name
backlash?
of
There,
the
was
book,
there a
right.
backlash when the Hobbit trilogy each got a name? There wasn't a backlash. We love the titles. I love the title,
I
The
loved them,
Desolation of
but no,
Smaug.
there was some
and the Battle
backlash.
of the Five Armies.
I know a lot of my friends who are performers at Ren Fair. They're You know, people who are moving up into their late 50s and they're original hardcore Tolkien fans from that generation.
Tolkien fundamentalists, as we like to call.
When the title came out from New Line that The Desolation of Smaug was the name of the second film, I thought, personally, that is so cool.
Right?
Any use of the word desolation in a movie title is ridiculously cool. And you know what? It's just like it says on the map in The Hobbit. But there were people I know, older Tolkien fans, who were like, ugh, what a cumbersome title. I don't want to see that. Blah, you know. Okay, sure.
So
but then back in the 80s, there was Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. And that was like the longest, most multi-hyphenated movie title ever released with like multiple subtitles.
So because
the full title.
Because there wasn't that much of a reaction to the Hobbit movies, I think that their fandom would have appreciated, hardcore fans would have said you can't rename Two Towers. I would have been okay with them renaming. I mean, in that climate, post 9/11, I don't think we'd even gone to war yet. You know, we were still like recuperating. They were still cleaning up the site for 2 years. You know,
that's
like,
true.
So I think that. So
wait, hold on. I want to say yes, Sarah. Yeah, Sarah is correct that The Return of the King was a title for the third volume that Professor Tolkien did not want to have. Because
so there's historical precedent.
Tolkien felt that the phrase "Return of the King" spoiled the ending too much, but the publisher used
sure
that
does.
title. The publisher used the title, and Professor Tolkien wanted to I think he wanted to call it "The War of the Ring." I think that was the third volume selection he had thought of.
So everyone that
but he was dismayed at the whole concept of
so
that.
everyone that complains that that's not true to Tolkien and this series isn't true to Tolkien. Well, it's never been true to Tolkien because the dang book that he released wasn't true what he wanted. Like he wanted to call it The War of the Ring. Like
something else, yeah. Actually, and you know what he really wanted? He wanted to stuff as much of the Silmarillion into the back pages of the appendix, and it delayed the publication of the third volume for quite a long while. And the publisher was like, come on, John Ronald, what's up? And he was like, oh, wait, I've got to finish these maps. Oh, I've got more alphabets. I've got huge charts of the sun and the moon and the Shire calendar, and I've got to put more stuff in that refers to the First Age. It's really important. And so, it went on and on and on. It was really quite an interesting...
And I will argue to this day...
go ahead, argue to this day, please.
...that Return of the Jedi, George Lucas took the name from Tolkien.
Yep.
George Lucas borrowed everything in his movies.
Yep.
Like, Star Wars is just a remake of Japanese cinema. Like Return of the Jedi, Return of the King, come on.
If you guys don't recognize Gandalf as soon as you see Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope, if you don't understand the Gandalf-Frodo relationship, which is in the Ben Kenobi-Luke Skywalker relationship, then you're not paying attention, kids.
Do you think the third Hobbit movie would have been better if they stuck with the original titles of The Hobbit? When it was two movies, it was called The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey and The Hobbit: There and Back Again. Those were going to be the names to the two movies. When they made it a trilogy, they changed the second title. I think a third movie called There and Back Again wouldn't have been related to the movie that we got, but it would have been a nice title.
That's right. The production fake title was Little Rivers?
The Three Rivers.
The Three Rivers. Because, okay, what was the first fake production title for Lord of the Rings? Jamboree. That's right. Oh my God, there was a keyword. So if there was a script lying on a table somewhere, no one would bother to look at it. They're like, Jamboree? And I remember you gave me a fake, one time you showed me like one of the fake script covers, a homespun tale about boys discovering the bonds of friendship in a Boy Scout camp. Jamboree. And I'm like, no, that's really the Lord of the Rings. I'm like, what a surprise. That was a perfect ruse. They were trying to pass around scripts with the fake name so people would not know what the keyword was.
You do know that
That's funny. I remember
when George Lucas was trying to convince Alec Guinness, Oscar-winning, legendary thespian Alec Guinness, to be in Star Wars, this like low-budget sci-fi movie, George Lucas actually told him Obi-Wan is a Gandalf-type character because he knew Alec Guinness was a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Oh, he said that to him.
Huge. So part of the reason Alec Guinness said yes is because it was a Gandalf. He said it was a Gandalf character. And then Alec got pissed when he died at the end of the movie, and I'm like, and then I'm thinking, but that's what Gandalf happened to Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. He dies. He falls.
I'll tell you what. I don't think that anything with the title of the third Hobbit film would have improved our reception of the third Hobbit film. What I really would have enjoyed would be less of the love triangle with Tauriel and Fili.
Well, we can have a whole nother
Keely,
discussion about.
And I would like to
Hobbit.
have more Beorn. We really got gypped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have Mikael Persbrandt, the most famous actor in Sweden, come in and do this, skin-changing bear monster guy, but to not even have him on screen kicking some ass, like he really should have been on screen a lot, because it was the most exciting part in the book to have him protect Thorin and help carry Thorin off the field. It was so heroic and so powerful, and it's just missed opportunity.
Let me ask you this, Cliff.
I'm sorry, I did say that.
Would you have been accepting if they had renamed the Two Towers the Treason of Isengard?
That would be the only acceptable alternative. The answer is yes, but...
Would you guys have? In the chat room, please.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
From what I've heard of the conversations, the debate was, are audiences smart enough to separate the Two Towers and the Twin Towers? And we got the Two Towers, and I think that's one of the last times that a Hollywood studio, the whole Hollywood infrastructure, has felt that us, the viewers, are intelligent. Like,
Do you know what?
we can handle it. We're smart. We get it.
And an audience will respond to that.
And I don't think that would happen today. Do you think that would happen today?
No. Today, an audience is very, very, very quick.
One Twitter hashtag negatively, and they would change the title.
Yeah, if anybody feels like they're being patronized to, and the studio is not treating the audience like they're an intelligent audience, then there'll be instant negative backlash on that.
As a New Yorker,
Absolutely.
we have a comment from Twitch. Elvis2708 says, as a New Yorker, I'm glad they did not change it. Awesome.
Well said.
Awesome.
Well said.
I think all the actors chimed in on. I think they probably even asked Ian McKellen's opinion on whether to change the name, because it took the 3 months debating this. And since Ian was in New York at the time it happened, I mean, he had a first-hand response of whether New Yorkers would take offense. And yeah. Have the respect for the fans that they can differentiate. That's
Indeed.
right. And I feel like Amazon, you would be wise to maintain that process. Maintain that respect for the fans. We are smart. You don't have to dumb this down. I know you spent $1 billion. This thing has to succeed. You're betting Amazon Prime's Emmy-winning success on Lord of the Rings. Don't dumb it down. We can handle it.
Agreed. The fact that they considered an alternative title, but it was going to be one of Professor Tolkien's actual alternative titles for one of his own volumes, makes it much more palatable instead of something made up out of thin air. Come on here, Keith. Oh, and by the way, Keith, I have a tab open, and anything this man wants, because I owe him a birthday drink. I owe you a birthday drink, brother. So you want to get something? And then I'm going to get you a birthday drink, okay? Happy
All right,
birthday.
we got 2 birthday drinks.
Yeah,
Here.
2 birthday. See, I owe you.
What were you going to say?
We're having fun down here.
Yeah.
So the question was, what was the question?
The question was, Justin, we were just talking about the way that you had mentioned the way that Ian was responding while being in New York.
New Yorkers would have been accepting of
And
the
you
title.
You feel that New Yorkers responded well, like this gentleman said in the live chat, that he was grateful they didn't change the name of it to pander to anybody.
Right. But we had gotten somewhere past that. But so I don't know what I have to contribute here. But
Yeah, we had gotten
somewhere. I forget where we were.
That's
at.
okay. It's a live show.
went by us.
We'll come back to it.
Okay, good.
We will
Yeah.
come back to it.
I'll come back to the mic.
No, stay
when we
for a
figure out
minute.
what we were gonna talk about.
I want to ask you, since you're here,
since I'm
what
here.
good things can people expect to find on McKellen.com? And how's Ian doing?
Well,
He's quite busy.
I'm going to see him week after next, so we'll
Yeah.
have a lot of new stuff to talk about, I'm sure. He's, of course, doing King Lear now.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's going to be broadcast really around the world. There are cinemas all around the world
yeah,
where you can see King
Fandango
Lear
or something?
broadcast live on the 27th of September.
Wow, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and there are 5 or 6 cinemas that are going to show it here. And then, of course, they repeat it in October and November. So even if you can't get to London to see this amazing production of King Lear,
Wow.
you can see it in your local theater.
And that's a Fathom Events, I believe. Fathom Events is like the...
Is that right?
one
Well,
put-
in
distributing
England, it's
it.
by NT Live. National Theatre Live
Okay.
puts it on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, tune in after the 24th of September when I get 2 feet on British soil. We'll have some fun. We'll have some
Awesome.
things going on.
Great. That's going to be super great.
Now, Cliff, I have a surprise for you.
Do you really? I have a surprise for all the guests. We have more audience who's come in live. Welcome to Scum and Villainy. They'll take your order at the bar way over here. But you guys come to Scum and Villainy and come see us live and be part of this fun show that we're having
Now,
here. What surprise do you
The
have for me?
surprise is,
I
let
don't
me
even know
give
if
some
I-
context. Let me give some context. Many years ago, when the Lord of the... yeah,
Oh,
you remember?
and now he remembers. Okay, this is hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, what were you...
We were talking about titles.
Titles, yes.
Yes, titles.
I mean,
yes.
The fact is, I was with a writer this morning. She's just published her 87th. She's not sure. Maybe it's her 88th novel.
Wow.
Wow, talk about prolific.
But she's written exactly 0 titles because the publisher picks out the title every time. The publishers and the editors figure out what the title's going to be. She gives it a title, but they always change it.
Yeah.
And she was complaining about her new book has such a terrible title.
Yeah.
And the cover looks just like the last cover and all this. So Tolkien was very lucky, really, to have the amount of control that he did, especially back then, with the way his books were presented, that he was able to do the cover art. That
He did the cover art himself.
Right, he didn't, but that was unheard of then, and it's unheard of now.
Yeah.
So yeah, authors don't really have a lot to say about the titles of their books or the covers of their books.
It's the same with movies. Like the title of the movie script often does not align with what the movie's finally called.
Yeah.
And the marketing of the movies is definitely not with the director's approval.
Not
and many
usually.
directors have taken issue with how the movie's marketed.
Right. Well, and of course we know Peter Jackson had a lot to do with the marketing of his films. He just latched onto them right from the beginning and got himself involved in all the aspects of marketing. It is unusual for a director really to be in a position to do that, but he was in that position and he took advantage of it. He really had a great influence on all of the marketing for the films.
Yeah. Totally.
And
So-
on the title of the last movie, I do have to differ. I think there's at least one or too many these in that last.
The Return of the King,
well,
the
it's
Lord
the
of the
Hobbit.
Oh, the Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies.
Right.
But it's the Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King.
Yeah.
There's more
A
thes.
lot of does. Should have got rid of at least 2 or 3 of them. Okay, that's all I have to say at the moment.
Yeah, so fans have pointed that out. Now, Cliff, but
Thank you, Keith.
When-
I'm
when
having
all this was-
second breakfast.
when all this was happening, YouTube didn't exist. It was hard to get video. Like we would download all night long to watch a 480p trailer, on our slow modems. So it was very hard to get video. There was one website
Yes, we did download QuickTime
that
video
was
all night. Yeah, we did.
that became the go-to destination for movie trailers, and it's called movie-list.com.
Yeah.
And it was the only place where you could find every trailer for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before YouTube. Their server costs must have been astronomical. I don't know how they did it. But Cliff, the surprise is movielist.com is still up.
Really?
Let's see if we can bring it up.
Oh, cool.
Movielist.com is still up, and they've got the Lord of the Rings page.
Oh, cool.
Still here. The Lord of the Rings trilogy.
There it is.
And they have all the trailers, including the trilogy teaser,
Wow.
the trilogy super
You mean
trailer,
the early teaser? Wow,
the
they have
early
all of those.
teaser. And here we are, The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. This is the special preview.
Dude.
This is what we're talking about.
Dude.
The Two Towers in May 29th, 2002 added this at the end of the credits before Marvel had even existed in the movie cinemas.
That's right.
It
was
Lord of the
ultimate
Rings
post-credits sequence
did
ever.
this, and so here it is. The original Two Towers preview that was added to the end of the movie.
All right.
Let's see if we can play this.
Yes, totally. Run that. Dude, I want to see this. Nice.
So you've just sat through your 10th viewing of The Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring in theaters. It's May. The movie was out in December. It's now 4 months later.
Wow. When we saw him
And
pick
this
up
is
that
the
when we saw him pick up that brooch, we went crazy in the theaters. We had never seen that.
Really?
We were already in tears just from the end of Fellowship because everyone's in tears. But wow.
The first thing you see is the leaves of.
Yes, and guess what? Turn around. Biggest spoiler of the whole story.
Approved by Peter Jackson.
Spoiled, completely spoiled. The Gandalf comes back. What a spoiler.
The first shot of Eowyn. Fangirls freaked out at the first shot of Eowyn. The first shot of Faramir. We had never.
Duseld, the Golden Hall. Ooh, Brad Dourif.
The
Excellent.
veiling shadow that glowers in the east takes shape. There is a union now between the two towers, Orthanc and Barad-dûr.
It's the ring. It's getting heavier. There is nothing we can do for Frodo. The quest will claim his life.
Sauron is not so mighty yet that he is above fear.
Oops. Out
He
of sync now.
fears you, Aragorn.
I don't remember that in Two Towers.
I do.
I thought that was in Return of the King.
He fears what you may become.
So Gandalf Greyhaim thinks he has found the lost king of Gondor. It matters not.
That's how you open a
The
door.
world of men shall fall.
Where is the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing?
Old video.
Have passed like rain on the mountains, like wind in the meadow. The days have come down in the west,
Great speech
behind
from
the
Bernard Hill.
hills, to shadow.
There's a lot. There's a lot there.
The filthy little thieves. They stole my precious, and we want it.
Great. That was so great. And you know what?
That was the trailer.
It actually has lots and lots of big time spoilers. Big time spoilers.
So
But
why did it take 90 days to see that trailer? Because they were debating whether to rename the movie.
Well, yes. And also because it was wise to wait a little deeper into the theatrical release so you could get people back in the theaters again. To wait a
Nowadays,
little longer. That's another
4
reason why.
months later, the movie would already be on iTunes.
Yep.
What? Yeah, they weren't 100%. that the second movie would be released.
That's worth mentioning. Yeah, at the time, they were not sure that Fellowship would even make its money back, and they could even finish the rest of the post-production on anything.
But the fact that it was still in theaters 4 months later,
yes,
and this trailer added new life to the box office. I mean, this thing
sure did.
Just stayed in theaters, and gosh, like I really hope Amazon figures out a way to put their series in theaters. It needs to be.
I hope Amazon Studios figures out a way to hire Howard Shore.
Arowana says
that's all I have to say about that.
This is still the best trailer out of all the trailers in all of cinema.
Yeah, it might be, and it's really quite thrilling. But I wish they had not spoiled the stuff about Gandalf coming back.
Sarah Thron says, I remember the fanboys freaking out about the Helm's Deep after that.
Yep. And my gosh, how impressive that Brad Dourif makes such a strong dramatic appearance. You thought that Christopher Lee had most of like the scene-stealing villainy, but here comes Brad.
Randall says, how is this approved? Spoilers everywhere. Yeah. That was spoilers. You saw Gandalf riding down the hill
you saw
to the rescue.
Gandalf showing up.
You saw Gandalf show up.
You saw Treebeard open his eyes. You saw all his visual spoilers, which was quite a surprise, Keith, because at the time, New Line was rather stingy in what images they would release early. Weren't they at the time?
In those days, people didn't have trailers to go over in such detail over and over again on the computers.
Yeah.
That's right.
They were seeing it on the screen and everything went by like
That's right.
In fact,
that's true. That kind of
people
spoilers,
didn't analyze trailers.
They didn't analyze them at all. You just saw them briefly in a big screen,
fact,
and then
we used
they
to do
evaporated
that.
somewhat out of your mind.
We used to download it as soon as possible, and then we'd make all these screenshots of the trailers.
Yeah.
And then we would send it to all the staff for comment and response, and whether what we see on screen is related to the book.
Frame by frame breakdown.
Frame by frame analysis of all the Lord of the Rings trailers.
We did a lot of
you
that,
can
yes.
search our website at thewandering.net and see our initial reactions to everything in those trailers. Now, people do that on Twitter all day long. Like, they just frame analysis every little thing, and everything gets its own hashtag and stuff. But it was novel when we were doing it. And I think that's one of the things that the fans at FanX Salt Lake this weekend were responding to in our history was that we were elevating the fan opinion. Most places, Yahoo movies, everything, we're just posting the trailer, and it'll be out in December. But we would go and post a trailer, and here's what the fans think of the trailer. This was new. This was new to any studio, to anything. That any kind of official blog or news source saying, pay attention to what the fans think because, it will impact. And the reaction to some of those shots in the trailer did not make it into the movie. There's a couple shots of Faramir in there that aren't in the movie.
Yes.
So.
And you know what? That shining light in Rivendell, where a hooded figure is walking up towards the broken shards of the sword, Narsil, which will be reforged. You're right. That's not in the Two Towers. That's actually in The Return of the King, when it is Elrond himself who shows up at Dunharrow and shows up to give Aragorn. In reshoots they changed a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why they were dropping content in that teaser trailer. Yeah.
Yeah. Side note.
Good
fan
note.
in the chat room, Carrie Ann, Keith. She says she just bought her ticket to King Lear.
Oh yes.
So, very good.
Nice. Thank you, Carrie Ann. That's going to be awesome.
You can see that they talk about the reshoots in the behind the scenes. So
yes.
Let's go back to the timeline. 9/11 happens. 3 months later, Lord of the Rings Fellowship comes out. At the end of December 2001, we're told by Peter Jackson, hey, I got a trailer for you. It's going to be on the movie. 4 months later, they finally release it.
Yes.
After debating whether, looking at the box office returns, is it going to come out in theaters? It was going to be direct to DVD. If it underperformed in theaters, The Fellowship, that movie would be direct to DVD.
Yep.
So at the time they released this trailer, March 29th, they were prepping reshoots, and they reshot a ton of stuff for Return of the King.
Indeed, they did.
Yeah. So, it was a crazy timeline. And
they did actually, Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool News at the time reported on being there for those late pickups some of the last shots that were shot for Return of the King. But that was actually, forgive me, not in the year you're talking about, but that was much later when they were picking up after the release of Return of the King, and they had even more pickup shots for stuff for the extended edition.
The extended editions. There were there were 4
Even
rounds
more.
of reshoots, I believe.
It's insane. That's insane.
4 rounds of reshoots. It was 3. Oh, 3. So there was
Okay.
there was in the summer between Fellowship and Towers, in the summer between Towers and Return of the King, and then after Return of the King for some extended edition. So there were 3 reshoots. Most films only get 1 reshoot, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get pickups if they're lucky.
Yeah.
I never thought, Sarah in the chat room says, I never thought about the impact of these movies on a post 9/11 world. The spiritual and mythological power of Tolkien was so needed and still is needed. That is why Amazon is making a Lord of the Rings series. It is going to be $1 billion budget, the most expensive TV show in history. It is 5 seasons guaranteed. We're guessing around 10 episodes each, so we're getting at least...
The clock is ticking because they're still under demand of this contract, which is a special deal with the Tolkien estate.
They have to be in production.
They have to be in production
by
at a
next
certain
summer.
time. By a certain time.
By next summer,
Well,
they have to be lens rolling.
Are you sure that ticking clock started when you thought it started?
Started when the contract was signed.
Are you sure?
The show has to be in production within 2 years of the contract being signing, and has to be on the air within 3 years.
In which case, I am not entirely encouraged, as you are, that they haven't made any news or any movement yet about who the directors and the showrunners are. At this point, they should have all that stuff announced, and they should start with hiring all these people to start doing previs right away.
Well,
if they have to be in front of the camera next summer, then they...
Previs is happening.
Previs is happening.
They know the story that they're going to tell. They just need to hire the writers to write it, but they know the outlines, so they're doing character designs, they're doing environment designs right now.
I appreciate that they want to approach this endeavor with caution, and I appreciate it's the most expensive television production ever made in the history of the medium. I do appreciate that. But still, time's ticking. How long will it take to put together that kind of infrastructure on a crew, on a production team, with the right people who can demonstrate that they've got the skills and the faculties and the wherewithal to do this kind of a thing, and they haven't lined up anybody yet. So I'm the one starting to get anxious.
Real quick, Elvis asked, what are you guys doing for New York Comic Con? We'll be at Comic Con. I believe we have a booth at New York Comic Con. Look for theonering.net. We'll have a panel talking about all the latest updates.
Always there at New York Comic Con.
Books. And you know what else is coming to New York Comic Con next year is the Tolkien exhibition, original watercolors from the cover of The Hobbit. First time in America. Most of his stuff hasn't even traveled to America. It's amazing.
Oh, that big Tolkien exhibit with the cooperation of the Bodleian Library in England, right?
The Oxford Bodleian Library.
That's going to be so awesome.
Coming to New York. We'll have all the details.
I'm going to get a special trip to New York just for that.
But let's go back to the timeline then. So Fellowship of the Ring was released December 2001.
Yes.
When was the start of principal production? September 99.
I thought it was October 99, but
October 99.
Probably September, yeah. That's right.
Oh, FX started in September. That's right.
Yes, and that was when there was an exciting full-page advertisement in The Hollywood Reporter and in Daily Variety with New Line Cinema using that weird logo that they didn't use for very long. They ended up changing it to the regular Lord of the Rings logo. That one. And it was like, we are so proud and excited to begin principal photography on our Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it was a Nazgul in dark shadows standing over the hillside looking over green, grassy Hobbiton.
So they started
I remember that one-page ad.
They started production October 99.
That's right.
And
October
it was
99.
released in December 2001. So that's 2 years, 1 month.
Yes.
2 years, 2 months.
Yes.
So they're expecting this to be released in the autumn of 2020. And we're in the summer of 2018 right now. So we're almost on the same schedule. But
almost.
They had a script done. They haven't done any casting yet. I mean, they're doing casting right now. I think they're just going to, from what I've heard, decisions are being made across the board, so it's only going to be one press release. Hey, here's the directors, here's the showrunner, here's your stars. It's not going to be like, hey, now we've hired this person like Star Wars does. Hey, we've hired this person.
I don't mind a steady drip of press releases. It keeps the fans enthused. It
They're
keeps them
just gonna.
excited.
They're just gonna.
What's wrong with that?
We know that they're doing casting right now. So look at the Sprouse twins.
Okay. Amity Sinclair in the live chat. Yes, we will be at LA Moot. We have been in conversations with the programmers at Los Angeles Moot. This will be a grand Tolkien academic moot. This is not.
That's like a festival, academic festival with panel discussions and stuff.
It is a symposium of scholars and academics talking about the effect of Professor Tolkien, his lives, his works. The theme of LA Moot this year is going to be adaptation. There will be much discussion about the relative success and failures of adapting Tolkien in various media, as we have. We love talking about that all the time on this show. So yes, we will be at LA Moot to answer that. Yes.
Yes.
Very exciting.
So
dates and details to follow. We will make announcements on theonering.net very soon. Yes.
Cliff, this has been a great conversation
Always.
on the context of Two Towers in a post 9/11 world. And today
one last note, though, we didn't really cover the gritty details. You're here for the grit. I'm going to give it to you. Here's the details. Professor Tolkien himself had to clarify for a lot of people years later what he meant by the Two Towers. Which two architectural objects was he really talking about?
That's the
guess
question.
What?
Yeah, what are the Two Towers?
There is no debate.
Who are the Two Towers?
There is no debate. Somebody on Twitter, on our Twitter thread, somebody presented it as if it was a question. It's not a debate. As one of the very adroit observers followed up with a comment on that Twitter thread. It's not a debate. Professor Tolkien was very clear. The Two Towers that he is talking about, although he assumed correctly that there would be confusion from readers, he was not talking about Barad-dûr and Orthanc, which is what is specifically mentioned in the movies, and it's mentioned over and over again by Cate Blanchett in the trailers. But the Two Towers in the book are a reference to Orthanc and Minas Morgul, because the governing body of action that happens in Book 3, has to deal with what happens in Saruman's tower.
In the trailer we just watched, he says the union of the Two Towers, Orthanc and Barad-dûr.
That is also Gandalf's dialogue. It's also in Cate Blanchett's dialogue. And guess what? It's not correct.
What do you mean it's not correct?
It's not correct. That's exactly what I mean.
That's the movie I love. The movie I love puts...
Speaking in plain English, you are not listening, good sir.
You're speaking about tales told in the 20th century. I'm talking about modern tales of Middle-earth, and according to the movie, the Two Towers are Barad-dûr and Orthanc.
Like I said an hour ago, you need to parse the distinctions between the movie and what is authentically in the book.
All right,
and
Tolkien
in the book,
fundamentalist
the Two Towers that he's talking about are governed by the first half of the book, all being about pressure and antagonizing stuff coming from Orthanc. The second half of the book has to do with Frodo dealing with the danger and the threat of Minas Morgul as Gollum takes them on that path on their journey into Mordor. So that's what it is. Minas Morgul and Orthanc, not Barad-dûr.
Minas Morgul?
Now you know.
I thought Minas Morgul, the one with the green thing that comes out?
That was originally the Tower of the Moon, and it was called Minas Ithil before the Witch King and all the evil bastards took it over. Yes.
So the green thing...
Yes.
The castle with the green thing in the Return of the King.
The castle with the green thing. That is
Minas Morgul.
That is Minas Morgul. That was originally built by Gondorians to protect and keep watch on the pass of Cirith Ungol.
You know what always annoyed me about Minas Morgul?
Deep cuts.
We had never seen that amount of magic anywhere in the movies. Like suddenly there's a castle with a giant green beam to the sky. Everything else in Lord of the Rings is so realistic, and then they just like do this She-Ra Princess of Power thing with Minas Morgul. It made no sense.
Thank you, Elvish 2708. I do plan on being involved in some kind of way for
Cliff,
the details
this is
to
a
follow.
Comment from today's post on our Facebook page.
And this is a beautiful comment. Let's share this.
Miles Chandler spent a lot of time typing this long comment on our Facebook post. Some say Tolkien's Two Towers were Orthanc and Barad-dûr. Well, some say the movie says. So let's just get that out of the way.
We got that
so he spends he spends 100 words, more than 100 words, explaining that. And then at the end, he says, yes, I am married and I have a job. Like, he went real deep and had to qualify his statement and say, yes, I am married and I have a job.
That's funny. That's funny, Miles. Thank you for that, Mr. Chandler. That's really good. It's worth reading.
You don't need to qualify your fandom.
We love
Tolkien fans we just always love that.
You know, Mr. Miles Chandler, we love you. That was awesome.
Hey,
that was awesome.
Jason Creed says, Justin Cliff, is Two Towers your favorite Middle-earth film?
Yes.
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 Well, more clarification. The extended edition of The Two Towers
I saw
is
it.
my favorite of all 6 films.
I have the ticket stubs. I saw it 27 times in theaters.
Yep.
27 times. And I'm still seeing it. Every time it shows in a local theater, theatrical or extended. It was the first movie I bootlegged on VCDs. Remember VCDs? It wasn't DVD. DVDs weren't really out yet.
That's true.
So Two Towers is my favorite Lord of the Rings. It's got the most characters. It doubles the cast from Fellowship. It literally doubles because we had not met anyone from Rohan or Gondor.
It increases music themes from Howard Shore by like 5-fold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing new themes of music.
It 5x the music themes. They're all iconic. And it is the only Lord of the Rings film that was disqualified from Oscar contention because
Why? What?
According to the rules of the Oscars,
What?
that movie sequels were disqualified from getting nominated if they included media from the previous film that was nominated. So they were disqualified especially from the soundtrack category. And the Academy changed all the rules for Return of the King.
Is this true, Keith?
100%.
You had never heard this before?
It's 100%. Look it up on the internet.
I've never heard that before. That's crazy talk.
Two Towers was not nominated for an Oscar because the rules didn't allow it because he reused themes from the earlier movie.
No, really. This is fascinating.
They had to change the rules.
This is fascinating.
So, Two Towers is my favorite movie, both from a story point and from the filmmaking standpoint, from the award standpoint, from Two Towers, Twin Towers, post 9/11 world. Basically, Two Towers took us out of the 9/11 tragedy.
Yep.
It was the movie that proved that we could move on and be a healthy society.
Yes.
And this tragedy of the Two Towers, today's 9/11, that tragedy was not going to color our society and our existence. And Two Towers was the point culturally where we said it's okay, we're moving on.
But the country had gone to war with Iraq with false information. There were no weapons of mass destruction there, and we had an engine of war going over there to Iraq, but they weren't even responsible for the attacks on the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. And the movies that were coming out, the expressions of popular culture, were our otherwise angst-ridden expressions in our own lives. We were finding solace in the troubles that these characters were going through, the troubles and the struggles and the victories of those characters helped us process the struggles and the questionable motives and the small victories that we were struggling through as a nation. It was a very interesting time for all of you folks who were not there of that generation when Lord of the Rings was released. There is something to it that could never be replicated again because of world events and what was going on. And it was really, really remarkable how people felt therapeutic from Sam's big speech, his big emotional monologue at the end of The Two Towers. It kind of pulled something out of us. And it was why there was so much talk about Sean getting an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, especially for his performance in Return of the King.
One of the greatest soliloquies in
but
film history.
also to see that they were looking for a Best Supporting Actor for Gandalf for the first film, and they were thinking maybe a Best Supporting performance for someone else for the second film. I'm not sure who. And then the third film was probably going to be either Elijah's film or Sean Astin's film to get
No, they
Best
were trying to
Supporting
get
Actor.
Andy nominated for the second film because that
It was Andy?
Gollum's movie.
Yeah, they were going for Andy for the second film.
That was really Gollum's
That's right.
movie.
So I remember the Oscar campaigns were staggered because they only thought, because of the largeness of the ensemble of these actors,
Grant?
they thought that it was best to approach the Academy 1 year at a time. Yeah, they gave up on that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Elijah, and of course, but there's something about
Andy still doesn't have an Oscar.
one of our friends in the live chat told us that Sean Astin's big monologue, which is so meaningful at the end of the film, was not even there until very late in the scoring process when Peter had this last-minute brainwave, got some new material from Howard Shore, and then he thought, let me take some of this footage, and we're going to put this monologue where it is now. But the original structure of the end of The Two Towers was not what it was until Peter made very last-minute decisions, and it ended up being a phenomenal instinctual choice.
And remember the final lines in The Two Towers is Gandalf saying, "The battle for Helm's Deep is over. The battle for Middle-earth, the war for Middle-earth is just beginning."
Yep.
And that's basically where America was culturally. The battle is over. We lost the Twin Towers. But the war is just beginning, and we're still
fascinating.
There.
But no, wait, to tell you honestly, the end of The Two Towers is actually a shot of Frodo and Sam and Gollum, and the camera pans up from the dirty, broken trees of.
He's talking about she will take her.
Yeah.
She'll take care of him.
And he's whispering to himself about his evil plot, and we're looking at the broken, abandoned trees around Ithilien as they're going into the mountains of shadow, and the camera moves up. And above the mountain line, the line of the tops of the peaks, we go into a CGI shot of the plateau of Gorgoroth.
Oh, yeah.
With all the volcano and the Nazgul flying around. I remember that.
Scuffled World
I remember
Order,
that. Wait, one last thing. The only thing that could make The Two Towers even more perfect than what it was is if Bjork had stayed
that was
in the recording booth, if she had done the recording of the song, but she was literally popping a bun out of her oven. She was in labor, and she didn't want to sing the song, so they got Emiliana to do it instead.
Bjork was supposed to sing the song during the credits.
Yep.
Gollum's song.
Yeah, the Gollum song. Imagine Bjork singing Gollum song. It would have been the best thing ever.
I still want that to happen.
I do too. I really do.
In fact, Amazon would be wise to reach out because she has the voice for a particular
bring her back.
Culture in Middle-earth.
My Icelandic goddess. Remember how much Icelandic poetry and the great Elder Eddas were influencing Tolkien and his writing? Then we should have the Icelandic goddess.
The only other place where they could film.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they frequently film Game of Thrones. Constantly filming in Iceland.
Yeah.
And also Prometheus. Some of the most striking photography in Prometheus was shot on location in Iceland.
Hey, people in the chat room are saying
Yes.
they would love to see a commentary with you and I doing a Lord of the Rings commentary. I like that idea.
I love that. We kind of did once.
Scuffled World Order says there's a website that allows you to do a synced commentary. Please tweet me that link. Tweet us that link at the Wandering Net.
Yes, please.
Find that website.
Yes,
but
please.
yeah, we should do that one day. Like maybe set up a couple TVs here so people can watch the Lord of the Rings with us, and we'll just riff as we normally do of all the trivia. There's so much. Remember the DVDs of Lord of the Rings had like 4 commentary tracks? So you basically had to watch the movie for 100 hours to get all the content on the DVDs. There was the actors, there was the visual effects, there was the director, and then there was the Howard Shore.
And the music, but the director also included the co-writers.
Yes.
It was not just Peter, it was Fran.
No, it was
Philippa.
the writing.
All the writers with the director.
And the effects one had Alan Lee,
Yes,
John
and
Howard.
a lot of the Weta designers and some people like Jim Rigel, the visual effects supervisor, who went on to do a nice interview with us when we were at Meltdown Comics.
Yes.
I love talking to Jim. Jim Rigel, if you're not busy, come back.
He's
Come
busy
back to
doing
Scum and Villainy. We want to talk to you.
Godzilla and so many other movies. Anyway,
he's a busy man.
You guys watching make the community special. We appreciate all your support every week. And Cliff, it's always great to have a conversation with you.
You, sir.
Next week we have Chelsea is back co-hosting. And who knows what other special guests. Again, if you want to come join us, come on down to Scum and Villainy. We're here every Tuesday, 5 to 6:30. You can just stroll in anytime. Jump up at the bar, as our friend Keith Stern has.
Keith Stern is here. I want to say thank you to McKellen.com's webmaster, Keith Stern, the inimitable, the irreplaceable.
And
Mr.
people
Keith
have
Stern.
already bought tickets to King Lear in cinemas
Now this is
worldwide.
going to be cool.
So
Let me ask again: is this the same production of King Lear that he did at UCLA a number of years ago? Completely different. Now, this is important because a lot of local California folks are like, what? I just saw Ian do King Lear at UCLA. Why is this different?
Well, it's a different cast. It's a different director.
Oh, wow.
It's a completely different take on King Lear. It's much simpler than Trevor Nunn's take was in the World Tour
Is it a
in
modern
2007.
telling?
It is a modern setting.
Oh, that's
And
intriguing.
That's the first thing to get out of the way.
That's
Simplified. It
intriguing.
was they did this version of it in Chichester last year, and so they really broke it down to just the basics, and it's just the actors and the characters and a little bit of rain in one scene.
Oh, cool. Of
And,
course.
Ian
There
keeps
has
his
to
clothes on this time. I have to.
Oh, Ian's
sadly
not
report.
going full frontal, is he? Yeah, there was
No.
that notorious King Lear was because Ian McKellen was on stage going, woohoo, here we go.
Yeah, I'm afraid if you missed that, you missed it all.
Literally. Well, I appreciate
But,
you telling us about
it's
it.
very different for people who saw the American tour.
Yeah.
And of course, PBS ran the video of that very successfully. But this is a whole new take on King Lear.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you, Keith.
Very good, Keith. And if you folks watching at home,
And all the pictures you've been seeing recently of Orlando Bloom
Oh my gosh.
Instagramming a picture with Ian, Liv Tyler,
That was so good. That's
Adam
good.
Brown, all the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings actors have gone and saw the play to support Ian.
Yes.
They've all come away very pleased, and you will too.
Yep.
Buy the ticket. Go see it in theaters if you're in England, right? Go to see it. It's in London? You can still get tickets
you
for
can
some of the
still
show.
get tickets for some of the London shows currently on stage.
Yeah.
Like
It's
only
almost
one
sold out.
seat. I'll do it. I'll even throw my hat in the lottery and scrub dishes in the back if I have to go and see that show. Okay, here he comes again. Here we go.
This is for people age 16 to 25. Every day, first thing in the morning when they open the box office, they release, 10 or 15 tickets.
Really?
If you're age 16 to 25, for £5, you get to stand up in the back of the theater and see the show. But I understand it's still a lot of fun.
Wow.
Wow, that's super
That'd be
cool.
cool.
That's to help
That's a way to
students to get to see it.
I
get
love
it.
that.
That
I
is
love
so cool. All right,
Well, Cliff, I
gotta say, great. Thank you, Keith Stern. That's awesome.
Today is always a tough thing, a tough conversation to have. 9/11 and everything like that. But I think this conversation was a wonderful examination of where we were at culturally and
Yes.
how Lord of the Rings helped everyone get past that
Yes.
and go on and have hope moving forward.
It is one of the most wonderful graces that we have is that we as human beings can find ways to express ourselves and heal ourselves. And the way that we do this uniquely is something that I'm very attracted to in this community. This community of fans is one of the best, and I'm thankful. After all these years, I'm thankful to have an audience. You guys are joining us, and it's great to have the OneRing.net buzzing with activity and all this enthusiasm about what's to come. But I'm especially encouraged because, why? She says, why Gandalf? Why the halfling? Why did you choose Bilbo? And Gandalf says it so perfectly. He's like, because he gives me hope. Sometimes I'm afraid, and it's those small little things that Bilbo does that remind me of being human and what it's all about. So, thank you guys for that.
We'll see
Thank
you
for
guys
that.
next week right here on Torn Tuesday.
Hey, follow him at Justin's Big Idea.
You can also text us at the phone number that's been scrolling across.
Text us there.
Text us anytime.
And you can follow me on all media at Twitter and Instagram at QuickBeam2000. And point your web browser to McKellen.com for some of the best stuff on earth. Thank you, Keith Stern. Good to have you here, bro, my friend. Good night, everybody.
Very good.
Woo! You did it. Good show. That was great. Very top. Great stuff. Hey, hey, hey.
Yeah, Amazon better get moving, huh?
Yeah, well,
No, they're farther along than.
that's not what Michael Pellerin has told me, but I need to keep my mouth shut and make sure that we're off air. Are we off air?
No.
Yeah, right. I'm in trouble.